Hello, everyone. Welcome to saasgenie's Genie Talk podcast. In this episode, I'm happy to have my friend, Mr. Prasad Ramakrishnan, here. Prasad Ramakrishnan was a former CIO of Freshworks, former CIO of Veeva Systems, and he's a member of Forbes Technical Council. He played multiple roles as an advisor, as a mentor to a lot of startup CIOs, CEOs. So I'm happy to have you here, Prasad.
Hello, Raj.
Thank you. Thank you for coming here and joining with us for the first time, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and first of all, congratulations on starting saasgenie. I'm so happy to see that you've started a new company.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Prasad, what I wanted to ask you is you have like a long career, like 35 plus years, right? What I want to start is basically understand your journey, right? You did multiple things. Again, started as a product development, consultation, project manager, and then CIO, right? I really want you to share your journey with us so that there are a lot of aspiring, inspiring IT leaders who watch us and who follows us in saasgenie, LinkedIn, and even our podcast. So it would be helpful for them if you share your journey with us and what made you to get to CIO level, from what decision, right, made you to go there.
Great question, Raj. Like you said, right? I've been in the industry 35 plus years, and I started in product development. I used to work for Wipro, which was one of the big four in India from a software services company perspective. I used to do product development for the European market. And at one point, I got an opportunity to come to the US, where again I did product development, but I ended up being in a place called Michigan, which was extremely cold. And I could not tolerate the cold weather. So I moved to the West Coast, which is California, and that's where I joined a consulting company. Ended up spending 7.5 years with them. That's where I learned the art of dealing with customers, right? Because when you're in Wipro, when you're in product development, you're within your own team. The interactions that you have are only with your fellow team members, and of course, you meet with the client once in a while. But where I learned my customer skills, my customer service skills, and the ability to talk to different leaders was when I was a consultant, because I used to deal with pretty much all the top companies in the Bay Area, as well as in the East Coast and the Midwest. And I used to deal with the CIOs, I used to deal with CEOs, I used to help them with technology strategy, product strategy, as well as help establish complete global competency centers, what you call GCCs. We used to establish delivery centers for them back in India. So that's where I got a lot of my grounding. Me coming into IT was by accident, actually. When I was in consulting, one of the leaders who was there in the consulting company, he went on to become the CIO at a company called Brocade. And he called me and said, Prasad, you've got a lot of varied experience. Why don't you come and work in my team? And so that's when I interviewed and joined his team. And 1 month after joining the team, his name is Jim Cates, and I look at him as a mentor. And he's written multiple books. He's now retired, he's 85 plus. He's written multiple books, a very accomplished leader. One of the things I asked him is, Jim, I want to be you someday, right? And his reaction was he had a huge laugh, and he's a very friendly person. He had a nice, huge laugh and said, Prasad, if you want to be me, you're going to have to do different things within IT. I said, yes, I'm ready to learn. And what he instilled in me was the ability to do multiple things by giving me a job rotation every single year. Now imagine this. 1 year I'm doing sales and sales systems. I'm dealing with all the sales leaders. Next year I'll be talking to finance leaders. I would have known nothing about finance, right? And what he taught me was be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to try something new, because he's giving me the air cover, saying, I'm giving you a job rotation. If you fail in this, you can always go back to your old to your old role. But the ability to try new things gave me the opportunity to do different aspects of IT, right? Which is what made me say, you know what, I want to now rise in the career from an IT leadership perspective. And so then I went on to become the director of enterprise apps, and then went on to become the CIO. I was CIO for 10 plus years, and that's where I got an opportunity to meet with you. I still remember the meeting with you 10 years back when I met you in the San Bruno office. And Freshworks was a 700-person company at that time. So it's been a wonderful journey, Raj.
Amazing. Thank you again. The message here is for the aspiring, inspiring leaders to become a CIO. I think be vulnerable, try different things, right? Yeah, just take risks, right? Smart risks.
Yep.
Awesome. So, Prasad, on the same thread, I wanted to ask life as a CIO. right? The main reason I'm asking this question is the aspiring, inspiring IT directors or leaders who want to become a CIO. So they should know what is the job, right? What is the real job as a CIO than what they think, right? So if you can talk about it, that would be great. Again, your experience with obviously Freshworks, Veeva systems, right? Now, how did you manage with the leaders? How did you manage the peers and the employees? And what is the real CIO role means?
See, most people think that the CIO is only a technology leader. In reality, technology is a very, very small part of the CIO's role, right? As a CIO, you manage stakeholders, stakeholder expectations. You actually have, if you look at it and split the role in terms of the time that the CIO really spends, most of the time is spent on one, managing the people within your own team, spending a lot of time with your external stakeholders who are the business users, spending a lot of time with vendors and prospective vendors that you want to bring into the mix. You spend a lot of time on budgets, right? Because at the end of the day, the business gives you what I call as an envelope. They give you, you negotiate with your finance department, you get an envelope of money that you're allowed to spend from a technology perspective, and it usually is a percentage of the revenue, right? Some companies have it as 3% of the revenue. Some in growth stages, it could be even 10% of the revenue when you're actually setting up the infrastructure, right? So you're given an envelope, and they're not going to keep changing the envelope. It is not like you're going to a wedding and then getting money thrown into the envelope. No, you get that in the beginning of the year, and you have to justify every dollar, right? So as a CIO, you are working within the envelope. You're figuring out how do I now deliver all the services that are required for the business with the envelope of money that has been given to you. Now, in terms of coming up with how the envelope is, you work, and that's where your experience comes in, right? You need to know what the expected things are and what the unexpected things are, right? You know what projects you're going to run, you know how many people you're going to hire, but then there could be some new change which sales could be coming up with, or finance could be coming up with, or product could be coming with, which may require an investment in technology. So you want to make sure you have those what I call secret back pocket dollars so that you can spend on those, right? So budget management is a very, very important skill. So if you want to become a CIO, learn to manage budgets, right? You don't need to become a finance expert, but you need to know how to manage budgets. Learn relationship management, because at the end of the day, you're not managing only technology, for which you want to hire the best people, right? But you're going to manage relationships. You're going to make sure that your C-level staff are kept updated on what's going on. You are also making sure that you have a seat at the table when big conversations happen. If the company is getting ready for an IPO, I still remember when in 2021, I believe, right, or 2020, when Girish said, Prasad, we're going to go IPO next year, we're going to set up our infrastructure. You need to have a plan. As a CIO, he's looking to you as the leader to say, what is the plan for us to go public? What are the systems and processes that I need for a company of this scale to now go public, right? So it is about knowing and having a seat at the table to be able to have those conversations. And this comes with credibility, and this comes with experience. So don't forever, for a second, think that the CIO's job is a technology job. Technology is a huge component. Obviously, if you don't know the technology, you cannot be successful. But most of your time, 70% of your time, 70% of your time is going to be spent outside of technology.
Awesome, awesome. As a day of as a CIO, right? How do you like split this between technology, between relationship, or between the budget, right? How do you far from your Freshworks experience and Viva system experience?
Yeah, so you're saying a day in the life of the CIO?
Yeah.
See, the CIO's day is actually packed with a lot of fun, right? On one side, you're dealing with people within your own team, right? Obviously, you want to make sure that you are completely updated on what's going on from a technology perspective. One philosophy I always follow, and which I also tell my team, is I never want to be surprised in the presence of a business user. If there is a problem, I want to hear from my team so that I'm able to now make the required corrections to the environment before it comes to me from a business user. Just imagine the CFO or the chief revenue officer calling me and telling me that the CRM is down. I would look really bad, right? So I spend a lot of time within the team to understand what is going on, making sure that I provide them guidance and air cover on what they are working on, right? So there is a percentage of time I'm spending with my team. Then I have a regular cadence of meeting with the various executives. And so this is a mistake that some people make, where they go and meet with executives once in a while in terms of their peers, right? In the C-suite and in the VP level, they set up meetings once in a while, but they don't make it as a regular meeting. Now imagine if I met you only once in a year, right? The level of relationship I have with you is going to be different than if I have a regular cadence where you know that Prasad is going to meet with me every month. If there is something, I have that monthly cadence in which I'm going to meet with him, or a bi-weekly cadence in which I'm going to meet with him, where I can bring up issues. Obviously, it's not just in a meeting that you're going to discuss issues. If there's an issue, you're going to bring it to me at any point of time, right? So spend time with the internal team, spend time with the business stakeholders so that you now have a regular cadence of keeping in touch with the business. It's almost what I call as the pulse of the business, right? The other aspect is don't ever think that you're sitting in an ivory tower and then making decisions in terms of how the business is going. You need to walk around, right? And at Freshworks, that's one of the things I love doing, and even in my other jobs, right? That's one of the things I love doing. I'll go leave my laptop in the desk, right, and check my emails in the morning. But then I'll start walking around. I'm walking around every single department. I'm walking where the sales function is, where finance is happening, where our facilities is happening, where our engineering is happening. So that way now I get a pulse of what is really happening in the on the field, right? And I visit all of the offices, right? You need to know how, because most people focus on the biggest office, the head office or the office where there's a huge concentration of the people. But then the problem is the person sitting in the remote office, they actually feel like orphans. They feel like, well, you know what, corporate doesn't really care about us. You never want to give that feeling. The same infrastructure that we have in corporate, they should enjoy. The Zoom room should be, for example, it should be world class, right? The network should be world class. The computers that are deployed there should be world class. So once you make sure that every department, every location of the company is treated the same way, you're now able to provide the best level of service for which you have to walk around, right? And then obviously there will be meetings with vendors, right? Where vendors try to always pitch you either new services or new solutions or new tools. So there will be a block of time that we allocate towards vendor meetings. And obviously you also want to have fun, because a lot of the work doesn't get done in formal meetings. It actually gets done in informal meetings. So provide opportunities for your team to walk into your office, walk into your desk, and then tell you, hey, here's the problem I'm facing, and so on, right? And then I also have regular meetings with finance, right? You never want to be surprised from a finance perspective, and finance should never be surprised from a technology perspective. And that comes with having the dual interaction with them, where they tell you what is there and you tell them what is there. So you make sure that there is a transparent relationship. Hiring is one of the other most important aspect of the CIO, right? Where I would say 20% of your time, 25% of your time, you're going to be constantly looking for new talent, right? And that requires you to have a phenomenal relationship with your TA department, with your talent acquisition department, where you are constantly looking at who are the candidates out there. So,
Wow.
so it is a very busy job, but it's a lot of fun. Think about it. I'm not doing just technology. I'm meeting with people. I'm meeting with finance. I'm meeting with vendors. I'm meeting with HR, right? So I'm doing different things, which makes my life really interesting. And obviously, I'm meeting with the board members when there's a board meeting, or when I'm meeting with C-staff when there is a C-level meeting, and so on. So it's a really fun job, Raj. You should do it.
Yep. Again, the walking around, I have the first-hand experience working with you in the same building for more than 7 years. So I have definitely noticed you walk around and talk to people, and even at least twice a day we kind of hallway in the meet and talk. So that is definitely a good one. And yeah, I would definitely recommend the CIOs, even other leaders, to follow that, and so that you get to know what's happening around the building, around the people, right? So awesome. So the interesting point about the finance and the envelope you talked about, right? So as a CIO, how do you pick a tool for the business, right? Because finance needs one tool, HR needs a tool, right? Every department needs a tool. And as a CIO, you have to be involved and make sure that you are selecting the right tool, because you need to support in the future, right? And you need to make sure that the tool is the right tool for the company, right? So what is your policies and how did you do it?
Yeah. No, it's, see, if you look at every IT leader, they have a methodology. Every company has a methodology in terms of the way they go about choosing tools, right? And this is what we call as a scoring rubric, where you you'll get purchasing involved, you'll get legal involved, you will get the business involved, and then you come up with a scoring to just evaluate the tool. But one interesting technique which I've used, which has actually worked in helping from a tool adoption perspective also, is what I call as democratization of IT. Right? Let me explain what I mean by that. Right? Think about it. If I'm sitting in an ivory tower and then managing tool deployment through presidential edict, right? Making executive order saying this is the tool that you're going to use. Compare that and contrast that to an environment where I'm getting every single business user who's going to be using the tool involved and bought in from a tool selection perspective. So I'll give you an example. When we selected Freshservice as a tool, when I was at Veeva Systems, right? Veeva was a company built on Salesforce.com. And you had some of the best Salesforce developers there. In fact, you can call them as Salesforce ninjas, right? They could do anything in Salesforce. In fact, the inside joke was if they could build a bathroom in Salesforce, they would have built it in Salesforce, right? And so going in there, the ITSM tool that they were using was built on top of Salesforce. And you and I obviously know that Salesforce, while it's a great CRM tool, is not a great ITSM tool, right? So they had done a whole lot of patchwork to make it work, and there was actually an IT leader, Patrick, who used to actually spend time every day triaging tickets and then assigning it to different people to actually get it resolved for the business. I went in there and said, there's a better way to do things. But then I didn't try to make it where it's Prasad's choice to make the new tool selection. Instead, what I did is I brought a cross-sectional set of users from finance, from facilities, from HR, and from IT and others, right? From all the representative departments, had them try out the different tools. So basically, I created the need saying, guys, we are growing very fast as a company. What we have as a tool is not going to scale. Now it's time for us to now look at a tool that's going to enable us to scale. So what we did there is we said, let's bring a cross-sectional set of users, have them be involved in the tool selection, right? They looked at all the possible tools. So we looked at Zendesk, we looked at Salesforce, and we looked at Freshservice. And we had instances created for those tools, and then those instances, these users would go and play around with it for some time and then come back with feedback. That feedback would then, we would all meet in a room in which each of them has a seat at the table and has a right to make their observations on what they liked about the tool and what they did not like. And coming out of it, we then used the scoring rubric to say, okay, let's assign some points to what your feedback is, and then came up with the scoring, and then Freshservice scored high, so we ended up choosing Freshservice. Now think about what this does. There are 10, 15 people who are involved. They were actually acting as representatives for the functional departments that they came from. And they were involved in the tool selection, which means now they are already my ambassadors for making sure that the tool gets successfully deployed. I don't have to go or send my IT team to go and sell the tool to the business. The business is already involved in the process, right? So this way, you're democratizing the process where they are involved in the decision making, right? Same thing with CRM, right? When you're deploying a CRM tool, when you're deploying a ERP tool, get the users. Have the users come in and then have a say on what they like or don't like. This way, you'll get their implicit and explicit buy-in on the tool, which makes the deployment easy. They will be bought in. They are also looking for project success. Otherwise, it becomes his tool versus my tool, right? So here it becomes our tool, right? So that actually helped in the process.
Awesome. So if I understand it right, you have a focused group of users, will do the POC, and then just make sure that they get to use different tools, and then they will kind of involved in the decision making. So that feels it's part of our tool, right? So they are in part of the decision making.
Yeah,
That's good.
not just the evaluation, but they have a say. If one of the users doesn't like it, we will hear why they don't like it, so that we don't ignore them, right? So in many cases, people will bring business users, but in many cases, they will ram the decision through to them instead of hearing what the real problem is, because they're the ones who are going to live it daily, right? And if they don't like the tool, you're going to get passive aggressive, right? They'll say, okay, I'll use it, but they will not really use it.
So Prasad, on the same note, let's say you selected a tool and then you started implementing it and rolling out to the users, but now company is seeing a hyperscale growth, right? The product what you have chosen, maybe it's getting to the ceiling, it's trying to, now need to scale it up, right? So I'm sure, because I have seen that with you in Freshworks, where our fresh service, even our using our own ITSM tool, but it had to go through a complete revamp, redesign because of the company growth. And if you can talk about your lighthouse experience or how do you scale any tool, right, when it reaches the ceiling, the company is growing, what are your strategies to scale it up?
Yeah, no, actually, when I joined Freshworks, right, Freshworks was 700 plus employees at that time, right, and fast growing, right. Think about it, we were growing revenue at upwards of 50%. We were hiring that many more people on a weekly basis. In fact, I still remember in the cohort of people that would come into the business, you would get approximately 40, 50 new laptops being deployed at one point of time, right? Now, when you're going through rapid growth, right, one of the first things that normally fails, and people ask me, what fails? Is it the tool? Is it the people? Or is it the process? Actually, it is a process that fails. If you have a solid process and a process to know, have I outgrown what I already have, then that is going to actually make you start saying, you know what, I've outgrown the use of this current process. I need to redefine my process. And that's exactly what happened. And the best example here is what happened during COVID, right? So I joined in 2017, 2018, and by the time COVID came, we were close to around 2,000 employees. Now, during COVID, Freshworks actually hired another 2,000 employees, right? And think about it, we are working in an environment where the entire company has gone into a work from home mode, right? And we have users all over the world. This is the stage at which Freshworks had offices in India, multiple locations in India. We had Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad. We had multiple offices in Europe. We have multiple offices in Australia, multiple offices in the US, right? And we were growing with the growth being from 2,000, we became almost 4,000 employees. So what this required us to do was to take a look at what our internal instance of fresh service, we called it Lighthouse, right? Because if you say fresh service within Freshworks, it gets confused with the product fresh service that we are selling to our customers. So we came up with an internal code name. We used to call it Lighthouse. So we said, it's time to redo Lighthouse. Right, and thankfully we did it even before COVID happened. Right, coming in the stage at which we were growing from 700 to 2,000. Obviously, that scale is different. It has more complexity. The level of automation that I needed to do in terms of the way tickets came in and the workflows that needed to be done to route tickets and take care of the various departments, that had to be solved. Plus, we actually had multiple instances of Lighthouse. If you really look at it, it was almost like an archipelago where each department had their own fresh service instance. We consolidated everything into one single global Lighthouse instance, which is what actually saved our bacon, if you want to call it that, right? Where we actually had one single global instance where, from an employee perspective, they did not have to go to multiple windows, right? They had a single window service. They would come to one tool, whether it's a finance problem, a travel problem, or a HR problem, or a sales ops problem, or a marketing problem, or a marketing ops problem, or an IT problem. They would come to one portal. The ticket gets submitted to that one portal, and within that, we had intelligent routing, which is one of the enhancements we made when we relaunched Lighthouse. Instead of it being multiple instances of fresh service that people would go to, they go into one place, but I had to take care of the routing. Which is where I worked with the product team, and they helped me to set it up in the right way. And I think your team was also involved there, Raj, in terms of helping configure the tool so that it now takes care of sending it to the appropriate person and then tracking the SLA. Tracking because different functions have different SLAs. Marketing has a different SLA as compared to sales ops, as compared to facilities. So figuring out what the SLAs need to be, what the routing needs to be, how the assets need to be tracked, and so on. Now, let me come to the COVID example. What really helped me when I'm trying to do remote service of employees is knowing what is there in everybody's laptop, right? Because the person who's working at home is different than a person working in the office. When you're working in the office, when your laptop is broken, when your laptop is not behaving properly, when your audio, this one, right, your headphone is not working properly, you can just walk out to IT, they would give you a new headphone, and then you'll be back to being productive. Think about it when you're working from home. You feel completely like an orphan. You feel alone. You feel scared saying, I'm not going to be able to do my job. If you're in sales and you have a quota to meet, and if you don't have the ability to even make a proper phone call with your customer, you're going to be scared, right? So this is where knowing what each employee had, what their configuration was, where this asset was before it got deployed to them. This is where the entire asset management aspect, where we knew which laptop, when did we buy it, Did Raj have it before it went to Prasad? What problems were there when Raj had it? What tools are installed in that, etc. All of those complete details, the entire life history, kind of helped us make sure that we are now able to serve our employees wherever they are. We deployed Slack at the same time, so they could now come to us and talk to us not through tickets but through Slack. So that actually helped remove the friction where they felt that there was always somebody there available for them to solve their problem. And the best part was I could also do offboarding thanks to what we configured within Lighthouse, where we had the complete history of what software has been installed and what is there. I could also do the unwind when I'm ready to when the person is ready to leave the business. So it also took care of me from a compliance perspective. So this goes back to my original point, which is process. It is not about the tool. We made it as a conscious decision, saying we want to have a single global tool. We want to make sure that we do the configuration of the process so that it takes care of us of the needs as a single global tool, and then the magic started happening.
Awesome, awesome. Wow. So the process first.
It's process first,
Yeah.
not the tool. The tool
Not the
is
tool,
a
yeah.
means to the end. It is the process. It is the thinking behind how do you want to serve your employees? Where do you want to serve the employees?
And I think you touched everything like IT service management, IT ops management, IT asset management, employee onboarding, offboarding, and everywhere the process behind the scenes is very
It's
important.
extremely critical, and that's where. And I know even from what you're trying to do, right? When if you look at where my interaction with you was, right, your team would actually come in and help configure some of the things that were needed for fresh service, and which is what I think you're also doing at saasgenie now, right? You're helping not just one customer but multiple customers. So wonderful.
So, Prasad, as a CIO, what are the metrics for you? It's very important. Is it driven by the management, or is it like you have your set of metrics you want to follow? Because every department has set of metrics, but as a CIO for the whole organization, what are like one or two metrics? It's very important for you.
Yeah. See, the way I look at metrics, and I use the term metrics that matter, right? A lot of people think that having a lot of reports, a lot of metrics is actually making you that much more knowledgeable. The answer is no. It all boils down to just a few key metrics that are required, right? Where I use metrics is as follows, right? When I'm having conversations with finance, if I want to justify additional headcount, right? And I'll give you a very live example here. When I was at Veeva, we were using fresh service within IT to take care of IT employees. Marketing, they used to use a Google Sheet where all the requests for blog posts, all the requests for news articles, all the requests for website changes, pretty much anything that comes to marketing from a marketing ops perspective, all those were tracked in a Google Sheet. And there used to be a person who would then keep track of that and then assign it out to people and so on. So when I had lunch with the CMO, she said, "Prasad, this is a real pain, Prasad." And I said, Nitsa, why don't you take a look at Fresh Service? I know it may seem to you like a ITSM tool, but it's actually not an ITSM tool. It is actually an enterprise service management tool. You can actually use it in marketing to make it where if somebody wants a blog post, if somebody wants to do a webinar, if somebody wants to do an event outside, all these are requests coming to your department. It requires people from your department to work on it, which means you are now a service provider. Right? You're providing these services to the company and people are requesting that. Why don't you make it where these requests come into you in the form of a tool? This way you can now set SLAs and send an automated response saying, hey, thank you for your request. This request is going to take us 3 days to process, 2 days to process, where a person doesn't need to do it. The tool is going to do it. And best of all, you know how many requests are coming, so that tomorrow, if you want to look at the number of staff that you have, the number of people you have to take care of your requests, you can actually use metrics to drive that conversation and say, I need more people because I'm getting a lot of blog post requests, I'm getting a lot of website changes, I'm getting a lot of event requests, which means now I need to hire people in those departments, right? This is where the numbers are used to justify headcount to finance, right? Same thing within IT. Right? If I go to finance and say, I want to add my IT level 1, level 2 by 5 people, it becomes easier when I use metrics to say, this is the number of tickets that I'm getting. What is the projected headcount from a company perspective next year? Which means my number of tickets is going to become correspondingly higher, which means I do not need to linearly scale the headcount. I do not, if there are 100 tickets, if I need five engineers, right? I don't need to make it 10 engineers just because I'm increasing the headcount. But I need to have a slightly stepped up headcount so that I'm able to take care of people. So I use metrics for helping drive that conversation. I use metrics to now also make sure that are we taking care of the customer's real problem, right? You have the usual stuff, first call resolution, mean time to respond, and so on. These are all what I call as hygiene metrics, which you need to have. But don't create vanity metrics just for you to look good. The best metric for me is what I get when I walk around. When I walk around, I get a perception of what is the employee satisfaction, what is the employee experience, right? And I would just have a conversation with somebody over coffee saying, hey, how is this working out? We deployed this change. How is this working out? Hey, I just changed the network access point in your area. How is it working out? That gives me a better thing than just the metrics which I use to keep track of stuff.
I have the experience. You ask me like, hey, how is this room conference settings and everything? Yeah, that's employee experience matters finally. Yeah, talking to the employee and getting first-hand experience. I don't want to like miss this question about this AI because that's a buzzword, right? I really want to get your perspective on from the CIO perspective. What are the challenges they have now with this AI buzzword is everywhere and everybody expected to use AI, deploy AI. And do you think it's really working out and AI is reached the level where it can really solve customers' problem? So I just want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, this is not the first time for CIOs, right? We have been through what we call as technology hype cycles. Take the 2000s, for example, right, where the entire internet boom happened, where every company had to become an internet company. Then you had the big data boom that happened in the 2005, 2006. Then you had the mobile boom that happened, right? So you go through different boom cycles, technology cycles, right? And AI is one of those cycles. But the funny thing with AI is it is not anything new. AI has been around for 50, 60 years. And even at Freshworks, right, we actually have it incorporated into a lot of our products, right? So we actually, within Freshworks, it was a different story. But let me give you a more general answer here. AI is at a stage where, if you look at the last 2-3 years, when ChatGPT announcement came out, right, there's a mad rush to now say, I want to adopt AI in everything that I do. And they think that AI is the magical answer to all of your world hunger. The reality is it is not, right? It gets back to what is your real process and what is the tool that you want to deploy. AI is not the end. AI is a means to the end. If you have your process defined and you want to say, you know what, I want to now use an aspect of technology to automate or make certain things better in that particular area, AI can play a role there. Example, when it comes to customer support, when it comes to ITSM, or when it comes to CX, for example, a lot of companies, they try to figure out how do I now respond to customers in a timely manner? How do I give people the answer that they're requiring in the shortest possible time? Because when I just placed an order on Amazon and I want to know what is the status of my order, where I'm now chatting with them on WhatsApp, which now tells me, hey, here's where your order is. Here's when it's going to get delivered and so on. So people are used to that type of a paradigm, and this is where AI can play a role, right? Where in terms of removing the friction from the end user, in terms of how they interact with businesses to know what's the status of their order, what's the status of their customer support ticket, and so on, right? There are other areas where AI can definitely play a role in terms of sales and marketing, where lead qualification, for example, lead enrichment, for example, lead scoring, for example. These are all real-life use cases where AI can definitely play a role. Now, a lot of people are under the misconception that AI can come and completely replace all of your employees. It cannot. At the end of the day, you still need the people to help define what the process is. And you will use AI tools to make yourself more productive, right? So 2024, 2025, I would call as the time frame of pilots and experimentation. You have a lot of companies running pilots, running proof of concepts, right? One big important myth here is while board members, all the boards say that, hey, I want you to AI enable the entire business, the reality is your budget did not change. You remember the envelope I talked about? The envelope that you got at the beginning of the year, that envelope is still the same envelope, but they want you to also add AI. Now, all the AI tool vendors, they want to have you pay for that. Where is that money going to come from? So CIOs had to start becoming creative, where instead of hiring that many more people, they would allocate a small portion of their headcount budget towards AI experimentation. Or instead of now, or they would talk to their vendors and say, instead of buying that many more per user per month licenses, they would say, you know what, I need slightly less number of licenses. I want to allocate some of that in terms of POCs with you to see whether we can use some of your AI features. So the best AI solutions are where don't try to force fit a solution just because it looks jazzy. Instead, take the use case and take it with the vendor that you already have, where you enable the AI features that they have developed, because they would have already figured out from a ITSM perspective or a CX perspective or CRM or ERP, there are already AI features being built to all of the enterprise tools. So try and figure out which of those features are relevant to you and your business, right? Take, for example, if you're in a manufacturing, right? You may be spending a lot of time taking your purchase order and then converting the paper into a real sales order. You can actually use AI to completely automate that workflow. So take it on a what I call as a micro process level and see how you can automate. That is a better way to deploy AI there, rather than saying that I'm going to AI enable everything and then you may come back with nothing to show for it.
Yep. Awesome. So still you go on like process first, and then people, and then the budget is very important. So you go by case with the AI.
And then the technology comes.
Yeah, awesome. Prasad, thank you. Thank you for your time and your insights. I really enjoyed all the answers, because even for me, been in this field for many years, I think there are few things definitely kind of learning for me, and I hope a lot of, as I mentioned, aspiring leaders who was watching and who was going to follow us, it will be useful for them. And thank you for your time. And I really had a lot of fun.
No, thank you,
Catching up
Raj.
with you again.
See, I think we live in a very interesting time, right? Where AI has completely changed the way people think in a lot of areas. So your last question regarding AI was so timely, right? Where people need to look at AI as kind of the next frontier. It's the next industrial revolution, but it's about how do you now build the right machines using that industrial revolution to transform your business process. That's where the value creation happens, right? Value creation for the companies that are building the AI tools, value creation for the companies that are using the AI tools from a business process perspective. So it is very interesting times, and it's all of us should be super pleased. Just coming out of COVID, we now have the AI wave, right? So it's a wonderful time, and I really enjoyed the conversation. It's always fun to talk to you, Raj. I've known you for many years now, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.